Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh and I'm chatting with writer and filmmaker Kayode-Kay and executive producer and friend of the podcast Roisin Kearney about their beautiful short film, The Ballad of Olive Morris, which has been nominated for a BAFTA among many, many, many awards. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Nice to meet you, Gemma, and nice to see you again, Roz.
Nice to see you too.
First up, what an absolutely gorgeous film. Oh my God. So your BAFTA nom, I think, is well earned. I was blown away by it. Unfortunately, how timely it is, how like unnervingly timely it is, when instead of it should be a retrospective piece about activism, it's actually a kind of cutting commentary on society. So just as a viewer, thank you for creating it. It's very powerful.
I mean, thank you. It was like, again, I on some level, I kind of knew that it's a timeless like story, a situation that's always going to be relevant. The story of Olive Morris and the things that she fought for, and in particular, that particular incident in the short film that I made, against police brutality and just general, prejudice and racism and that type of thing. It's never gonna leave us. So these things are always gonna be relevant. So I can't say that I had some crystal ball where I was like, okay, I knew that would, be the case. But, it's just unfortunate. That's the way of the world.
Oh, well, it's like, I wish it could be like something else where we're looking back and saying, isn't great as how society shifted in 2020, and now we're looking at it from a different point of view. And I wish I could say, this highlighted that movement, and it isn't. Like, we're just in the same old shit, which is really unfortunate. But I think what your film does so beautifully is, captures the rallying spirit of people on the ground, and that fight and the empathy and the humanity, I think, is what is gorgeous, and all in 10 minutes. So it's like, it's such a big, small film. Like, it's enormous. So I'm
a big small film. That's an interesting way of putting it. I've never heard that particular phrasing before, but I'll use it. It's a big small film.
It is. You can quote it. Phil, put on the poster as Film Ireland. Film Ireland said it's a big small film. So I just wanted to chat to you guys. I know it's so difficult getting something like this off the ground, and something so goddamn polished production design wise. So tell me a little bit about A, how you guys met, and B, how you started working on this project together.
Well, we were both nominated for the EdFest New Voice Award back in, was it 2019? Was it 2000?
I think, it was 2019. It was 2019. So it was like, it's like 4 years now.
Yeah. And we met at that, over in London, and we just kind of hit it off, started yapping, started talking. We both had pilots that we'd made, and we both lost, by the way. We were nominated in the same category. Someone else won. Maybe we're bonding over these. I don't know, but it was like we were just getting on really well at the event, and we stayed in touch. Yeah, we found we did an awful lot of stuff in common. Like, we both would be quite passionate about the social justice story, and like Alex was talking about Olive at that point, and I had never heard of her, and it just seems so bizarre that someone like her existed and she isn't known. I mean, whatever about in the UK, like, where she doesn't have, people don't have the information about her there either. But I was shocked that even in Ireland we didn't, because I mean, she was a powerful, important figure. And I think it goes for an awful lot of females in particular. When you look back, that they're lost in history.
Yeah, like I've had quite a few conversations with Roz about these type of stories, and stories in Ireland as well, about people, particularly women in history, who've been overlooked, and for whatever reason, their stories haven't been told. And it's kind of like, for me, this particular thing is almost a case study in like whose stories get to be told. I mean, who decides why, who gets picked to be important in the context of history. So, when I actually found out more about Olive Morris's story, and I just figured to myself, this is a no-brainer that it should really be a major historical figure. But she's like, again, she's not completely unknown, but she's relatively obscure in terms of, again, she was in Brixton. She had a building named after in Brixton. But even a lot of Brixton people in her neighborhood today, they didn't really know who she was. They just know that there was a building named after her, and it's almost kind of been forgotten. Like it's started to lose that essence of what she actually did and what she was actually about. So maybe this film's going to remind people.
So, and a really stunning film. So tell me a little bit about your researching into her. So you had she'd always been a little bit on your radar in writing this short film. Did you, and with a kind of view to direct it, did you kind of delve deep into her history? Did you delve deep into her history and then decide to direct the film? And how did that influence your writing?
No, it kind of started out. I found out about her, by coincidence because I've lived in I've lived in various parts of the world, but I was born in the UK. I was born in the UK, and like I've spent most of my life in London or various parts of London. But I didn't actually live in Brixton, where she was primarily operating out of till 2016. So I moved there, and then I was having some particular issues with my lord at the time, or landlady, but same thing. And someone told me that there was a building called Olive Morris House, where you can go to and get your housing issues looked at and sorted out and resolved, and if there's a dispute. And so I went over there. It's a council building. I spoke to someone about my issues, and then I looked on the wall, and there was like a really striking picture of Olive Morris, with she probably had that megaphone as well. And he said that she was an activist and like she fought for squatters' rights, and she died at 27. So I got very interested just by that little picture and that little blurb about her in the building named after her. So I went home, as you do, went on the internet, went on Google, so, tried to find out more about her. And there's a fair bit of literature about her on the internet in terms of like written literature. And that's in no small part due to an organization called Remember Olive Morris Collective, and they're friends and family members of her at the time who've actually helped try to keep a record of her activities and stuff for people to remember her. But there wasn't really any audio visual material. I kind of thought, oh, there must be some documentaries, some films, some just stuff about her that you'd expect. But there really wasn't anything. So I just thought to myself, this is really not really, it just doesn't make sense because like I said, she died at 27. She founded a lot of organizations to fight for injustices. At 17, she did what she did in my film, which is physically put herself in danger, to stop a man being wrongly arrested and wrongly assaulted, and herself got beaten up for that purpose and threatened with sexual assault. 17 years old. People become legendary like figures in history for doing less. I'm not saying that it's a competition or anything, but I'm just surprised that she wasn't more celebrated. So yeah, on that basis, I just decided, if no one has done a film about her, or by the time I'm in a position to do it myself, I'll do it myself. And that's kind of how it went. So I from that point forward, I knew I was going to do something. But I went on to make other stuff. And I ended up making my short film, which I starred as a TV pilot, or The Solution, which is actually a comedy. And that was how I met Roz, because it was at the Edinburgh TV Festival. We got nominated for the I think it was called the Test Card Pilot Award.
Yeah.
That was what it was called. And Roz's film was in there as well. And yeah, that's kind of how we met. So I actually kind of like I compartmentalize that in my mind. Okay, I'm gonna get around to doing that, but I still wanted to do other things first. And then yeah, that's that's the genesis of that. And then later on, I got after I made the solution, I was like, okay, now time to head into Olive Morris because no one else has done it. I wrote the script. I sent it around there's quite a lot of people. The response was very good from a lot of producers. It actually got into uh, uh, BFI, which is British Film Institute, sort of networking event where producers and directors were introduced to each other for the purpose of actually collaborating on a film. So I sent my film. By the way, I'm a producer myself, but with the BFI, you're not allowed to do everything. So I had to like say, okay, I'm on this project, I'll be writing and directing. But that's particular to the BFI. So when I went to them and did that in the hopes of applying for funding for them, I met a lot of producers. A lot of producers wanted to actually do it because they liked the script. I settled on one, and that happened. Unfortunately, we didn't get the funding. Not quite sure what happened there. It kind of, yeah, and then that situation kind of went away. Roz got involved. Obviously, I called up. I said, "Hey, I really want to make this film about Olive Morris, and you know how long I want to make this film, and you're a brilliant producer, etc., etc. Yeah, maybe you can maybe you can help me out, get it to Ireland and see what's afoot. So do you want? I mean, you could take it from there. See what.
Yeah, no, that's it. Then we were talking about that, and like, I mean, the frustration, like, because it was a story that from the first time Alex spoke about it, I was in. Do you know what I mean? Because it's, when someone's that passionate, that committed to making something, and plus, I think the story was so important.
And aligns with your values so deeply as well. Like it resonates with something. I also just want to point something out, because it's something that you hear quite a lot. And Alex, like now you're standing here with a piece of work. I'm sorry, I do want to come back to you, but just while it's kind of fresh on the table, that you're standing here with a beautiful piece of finished work that is like winning, like nominated for like top tier awards, that I presume you'll have a lot of interest, you'll have a lot, but like what I'm hearing in what you're telling me, and Roisin as well, what you're saying is that you were just rejected consistently. And that's like universally timeless and beautifully performed and beautifully executed, that there was so much rejection going on. And I think as someone who kind of creates work, it's important to point out like what you guys did amazingly, and what a lot of people tend to do is just get disheartened and give up. But what you're doing is like it just going, I have something amazing here, I want to keep working, because I think that's what people don't realize is the amount of rejection people face. But anyway, as we're continuing on that vein, I wanted to applaud you.
It's on the same vein, because we applied here. Like I applied to try and make it here, and applied for funding, and we were talking about it because I think one of the things that has fascinated me around it, and it's something that we've chatted a lot about after, was the moment of radicalization, the thing that finally breaks the camel's back. And we knew, like, I spoke to Olive Morris had come to Belfast and met with various people there, but I could find nothing about it, and that was including like asking all my family in the north and everything to look into it, and they could find nothing about her visit there. But we know it happened, and I think that moment of radicalization is really interesting, when her as an individual, being so young at the time, like, which is incredible, said enough is enough. And I think it's so important to capture that moment on screen. So I did apply here. I did apply for funding here. And, as an individual project, and then part of a bigger project, which we kind of talked about a little bit afterwards. And again, it was like, nah, not going to happen. And like, we'd put London on screen, shot in Ennis with Paddy. And so I knew it could be done. And that was
a period piece.
1970s London. Like
yeah.
And so, So I was very disheartened at that point, and it just felt like it was such an uphill battle. And then over to Alex as well, was never going to let that go.
Yeah. So I was I was like a dog with a bone with this one. I was like, I'm gonna make it, however it needs to be made. So obviously, when it didn't work, I mean, Ros did her best in trying to get funding in Ireland, but it didn't work out. So I just decided I'm just going to crowdfund this project. So I did that. I got involved with an organization, a crowdfunding platform called Greenlit, in the UK, and it's very much of the Kickstarter, GoFundMe variety type of thing. Um, um, and they help you put together a really like nice looking professional page, with all the attributes of the film, whether it's who the people who are involved, the people that you've attached to it in terms of cast or crew, images, video, anything, any background of the film to actually make a really nice page. And then I did that. I spent a lot of time doing all that myself, with the members of the Greenlit team. And then I started on the crowdfunding thing, which is very, very specific because I decided I thought it made perfect sense to go to Brixton, where Olive Morris was from, and actually talk to people on the ground on a daily basis for a month and ask them for money. So that's kind of what I kind of knocked on people's doors and I think I started to gain a bit of notoriety because eventually like the local papers started writing about me, like, okay, there's this guy doing a crowdfunding campaign. He's not stopping. He's just like, and people started donating. People were giving it to them because I was literally showing them, I was coming to them with a pad, an iPad or whatever, and showing them the Greenlit page and saying, you can donate on this page. Here's all the information about the film you need to. And I actually raised about £15,000 in about 4 weeks.
Wow.
Just, literally just by knocking on doors, talking to, I mean, I got a lot of no's, but I got a lot of yeses as well. And, I was able to offer things on the page. Like, for example, like a lot of people, if you see the film, you see in the film, there's a lot of names at the end of the credits, a lot of names. Those are all people who gave me like £15 or £10. And I said, listen, if you do that, I'll put your name at the end of the film. It'll be there. And that's why there's a lot of, there's a lot of names there. And for a couple of people, I said, £50 can get you like, a copy of the poster and this, and you just offer little gifts for people and stuff. But yeah, I managed to basically raise the production budget through crowdfunding, but very grassroots on the ground, have a crowdfunding.
And your involvement with the family as well. There was like Olive's family have been very involved with Alex, and that was something that was really important to you as well, was to have that backing from them.
Yeah. I like I said, I did do a lot of research on the actual before doing it because this is someone's life. You have to take it. I take that responsibility seriously. If I'm making a film by a real person, you have to look as much into it as you can. So I did the research. I did what research I could, secondary or third-hand research in terms of looking at archives and all that type of thing. But then at a certain point, I started to try and contact people that knew her, because there are people that are still alive, family members, friends, all that stuff knew Olive. And I got in touch with someone who was her best friend in the 70s.
Wow.
A lady called Liz Obi, and she's actually one of the founders of the Remembering Olive Morris Collective. So I got in touch with her, and she was very helpful. She was like, she was just telling me stories about Olive and like what she was like and this and that. And then she also asked me to come along to a blue plaque event in Brixton. Or what a blue, I don't know if you got a blue plaque things in Ireland, but they're basically just plaques that you put on a building or a house to commemorate an individual or a person of historical significance who's no longer alive. and say, listen, that person lived there, that person was there, did something significant there. So that plaque just stays there.
It's wonderful to be so integrated with your story, to really feel a part of like her society. Like I actually, it must feel you must feel like you know her.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Weirdly enough, I do. For someone I've never met, it's yeah. I feel like I've got a very strange like affinity with Olive Morris. I feel like like she's someone close to me, and it's weird because again, we never met. Like I wasn't even alive when she died. So I do kind of have that sense now. And through meeting again, I did meet family members of hers at that blue plaque unveiling, which was in the summer of 2021. And then more recently, a few months ago, there was a screening of the film in Brixton, where there was a hall named after Olive Morris. And then, basically, most of the surviving members of her family were in attendance, for that screening. And they watched the film for the first time. And that was an emotional moment for them and for me, because, I didn't know how they react because, this is just me, using my skills as a filmmaker to, kind of like do a docudrama based on a person that was their flesh and blood. But the reaction that they had was to me, it was amazing. They taught, like without each and every one came up to me and said, what a great thing that film was, Olive. And again, a particular thing that stood out, that really stuck with me, her younger brother, Errol Morris. He came up to me and said, I'm really proud of you, young man. You really did justice to, that's what my sister was. And that's what that period was. And it just felt like you nailed it. So I actually cried that. Actually, I was like, yeah, okay. That
was the night of one of those late night phone calls. I can vouch for it. It was incredibly emotional for you. And when we had talked later on, it was, and I think that was a hugely important moment after all the years of trying to make it, that almost is the prize,
Yeah.
Just to have that reaction from
it. Yeah. I mean, at that time, by the point they'd seen it, the film had won some awards, and it was, the trajectory was very clear in terms of the, it was doing well on the festival circuit. And so from that perspective, I was like, oh, I know people think it's a nice film and stuff, but for the actual family to react the way they did, I didn't realize it would like, get me in that way, but it kind of did. So yeah, that was it.
That's really beautiful. And tell me a little bit about the process of making the film, because you really captured something so gorgeous. And so this is it. It was so polished, like everything from the uniforms to the lighting, to the background, to the environment, the cars, everything. Like it's so polished and well put together. How did you achieve that? Because like even raising a good amount of money, that takes a lot of money.
For a start, it was, I got a lot of people involved on Goodwill. A lot of like, very, very talented professionals, people, I'm a big believer in if you don't ask, you don't get. That's how I raised the budget. If you don't ask, you don't get. And like, a lot of my approach with this was like, we haven't got all the money in the world, but I recognize, because I'm good at spotting talent, or as a director, you're as good as your crew, right? And if you have the right crew around you, you can make magic. So I'm very good at spotting, like the right DOP or the right production designer or the right hair and makeup person, and be like, okay, if we get all of them in the room together, we're going to make something special. And that's that's essentially how it happened. I got a lot of really, really good people together at, at almost like very minimal rates, because people believe in the project.
Yeah, and it's stunning. So the process of the shoot, how long did it take? How much did the prep do? Sourcing all that stuff must have taken some amount of time, because you're saying you met back in 2019, but like something like this takes so long to put
Yeah,
together.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Obviously, like I've been working on it. I've been working it from ages. So I kind of like I I put together the skeleton of the thing myself probably from like 2019 onwards. I wrote the script. I made sure I got storyboards. I I kind of I got storyboards. Everything, I got collages. I kind of got a lot of a lot of imagery attached to it that kind of like gave the framework for people to actually work in. So people kind of like knew what I was thinking of, knew what I could provide them in terms of materials. When I was trying to engage people to actually come on board the project, and like some people came on board, and so it was actually quite a process. I attached people, and for various reasons, maybe because that I didn't get funding in I couldn't find the funding I needed in enough time. They dropped out. Then I had to find another person to replace them, and so on and so forth. But by the grace of God, we actually got to a point in 2021 where I did finally secure the funding through the crowdfunding thing. I attached all the necessary crew, and again, there was some really high level professionals on this. Like our production designer is a lady called Julia Antoinette Green, and like she's been a production designer in TV and theatre and film in the UK for like 20 plus years. She's been around for a while, super experienced, and she won an award for her production design, which is brilliant, at a Seoul Festival, which is great. Um, and and then you have our hair and makeup supervisor, who's called Alison Edwards. Now she's actually currently the head hair and makeup person on Death in Paradise, which is a big BBC One show.
Yeah.
And like she's someone I called up and I said, can I'd really like you to do this. And like, and for her, it wasn't about the money or anything like that. It was about, the story and the script and Olive Morris herself. So I was able, like, again, like I said, I was able to attach a lot of really high caliber talent. And that's why the film looks like it does, because, you can't, again, you get the right people and, you know what you want. You'll make something that looks good.
And it's stunning, and that's your skills as well as a filmmaker. So let's not let's not gloss over that. It's a very there is so much to it. As I kind of said, like it's a very big, small film. There's so much happening, yet the pace is perfect. Like it feels like something that both is much longer and much shorter than 10 minutes, in the sense where the time flies by. There's no bit where you're like, ugh, but there's like afterwards you're like, so much has happened. Like I've been taken on a journey, and that's like literally the best balance. Like that's number one critique of films. Like it's either they're too long or too short. And I think like part of that, like finding the pacing, finding the beat, the crux of the film, getting those authentic emotional moments. Like I'm just thinking of Olive and the female police officer. Like that really was very confronting and very well played, because it was so low key. Like it was really powerful to watch. And it's like, well, you're a woman, like how can you do that? And that point is there. The performances were just brilliant, and it happened so fast. Like you got in, you got out, the scene was there, it punched through. So that's what I thought was incredible. How do you like make those decisions? Is it something that you had in your mind perfectly the whole time? Is it something that you find with the actors in the moment? Like how do you get those moments?
Yeah. I mean, this project was rehearsed. So like I said, I went through rehearsals with all my.
It was very much in the script, though. I mean, it was always there, and even when you were reading through the script, you could see every moment. So it was always there. And I think when you have the caliber of actors that Alex got together, they're going to see that too. You know what I mean? And they see the tone that was in this. The tone was incredibly clear within the script. So there was never a question, I don't think, from an outside point of view of, where is this pitched? Like, where are we going with this? Because it was so strong within the original script. And that moment is something that we talked about a little bit about, because it's heartbreaking, and it is a question. It is that question of a female being in that position, and her obviously feeling disempowered being a female in that circumstance, but which way she had a choice in that moment in time, and the choice that she made. And you can identify with both women.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, as Roz points out, I kind of like, I did have it was very deliberate how I structured it tonally. Like at the beginning, it was meant to be lighter. It was meant to be like, this is innocence taken away type of thing. She's in the record shop. It's a very, it's fun, like the interaction with her and the record shop owner and his assistant and, and the music, and it's just like, this is life. And it's just in an instant, just seeing that incident through the window.
Yeah.
Then she enters a whole new realm, and it becomes a lot more darker. So, the whole thing was, essentially, tonally, I knew where I was going in each section of the film.
Yeah, no, it jumped off the page, and it is very true to what happened. That, you know what I mean. The film is true to a moment in time, a real moment in time that happened to her. So, obviously, coming from that point of view, there's a lot of truth within it, and then you're creating a film to represent it. But the moment in time did happen, and Olive herself had such a short life that I think that's one of the things that's heartbreaking. She did so much in such a short space of time, and that's because instantly I'm like, "Where's the feature? Where's the feature?" Because it is that. Like, I mean, she's an outstanding human being who, at such a young age, and was a little girl and became an activist in that moment. And I think that was something that is really, really striking within the film as well.
Yeah. So tell me about the music, because there's some absolutely gorgeous like a sound mix underneath this, and the songs in it are like really, really beautiful. Just describe a little bit about that.
Okay. The actual main composer is a jazz musician called Courtney Pine. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's one of the most like well-regarded jazz musicians from the UK, and he's been around for like 30 odd years. He's been around a long time. And again, I got to know, I got contact with him through our casting director, who also happens to manage him. And then I asked if he was interested in helping compose it. So the through line through the film is the score is his. But there's also other bits of individual music from individual artists, several of the time period. Now, a lot of those pieces of music are quite expensive or very, very difficult to license. I got Desmond Dekker, The Israelites, which is a song from 1969 or thereabouts, and a song from Fela Kuti, who's the father of Afro beats, from the 60s and 70s. And who else? Yeah. I got those tracks. But it was through the reaching out to music supervisors company called Curved Arrow. They were actually very helpful. I kind of, it's the same way I got a lot of people on board this project. I appealed to them to like, okay, help me try and get this stuff as cheaply as possible. Let people know that this is good karma to be in part of this project. Go approach like Universal Records and say, listen, he doesn't have the money to do it, yeah, but give it to him for like a nominal fee and like, it'll be worth your while. And it happened. That's kind of how it happened. So and again, Little Sims, she's the end, she's got the end track. She's got the end track, called Woman, featuring an artist called Cleo Soul. And she's like the biggest thing in the UK right now. She won the Mercury Music Prize. She won the Best New Artist at the Brits. She's huge, huge. And she had a #1 album recently. And again, she gave me license to use of her song for like next to nothing. That's the closing track of the film. So yeah, we got a lot of great music. It was a mixture of like getting a really, really strong composer and really incredible bits of original music on a very low, for not much at all. So yeah, that's what happened.
It's fabulous. No, it is. It's really, really cool. Okay, so you have worked on this. You have put your blood, sweat, literal tears into this. And you have gone to the streets. You have made sure that it's available, and now it's out there, and you're like finally like reaching a big audience now. So tell me a little bit about what it's like to sit sort of this side of that project, of that mountain of a project.
It's interesting. It's it's like this. I mean, to be real, like where it's at now as a BAFTA-nominated, but that's like the pinnacle of pretty much of our industry, and well, I don't know if that was at the forefront of my mind when I was making it. It was more about just making it and getting out there and like getting her name out there and like and what have you. But again, yeah, it's been amazing. You get people congratulating you. You feel really well regarded by your peers. A lot of people, there's just a lot of filmmakers that I know and respect who have like, well done, Alex, and like, yeah, you're champ and all that. And it feels good. It does feel good, to get a pat on the back for a job well done. So I'll take it.
Well, it's more that I think for the amount of work, and it's, as we were saying earlier, I think in a lot of ways that screening with the friends and family was kind of the prize, because that was probably the biggest fear. And it would be for anyone. It is that fear of the people that are involved and knew her, reacted in the way they did. Yeah. But I think it's very well deserved, in its place, and for what was ultimately a very low budget and hard fought to make film. It's fantastic, and it kind of gives hope to a lot of other people as well out there, which I think is great. And it's there because of the talent, you know what I mean? It's there because of the writing. It's there, the acting, which was just incredible, which is down to the casting. I mean, there's so much there. And then it's screening. Is it next week? It's over in LA again, and which again will bring it to a whole new audience. Which is fantastic.
Yeah. In terms of upcoming screenings, actually screening again on it's doing a screening again on February 4th, a BAFTA screening, and then it's having a festival screening in Los Angeles, the Pan African Film Festival, which is an Oscar qualifying festival. I was very happy that we got accepted in that, and that's the start of our sort of like presence in America. So yeah, and like the week, like last week we were in Germany at a festival there and showing the film there. So it's going a bit international now. I'd like to actually bring it to Ireland soon.
Oh, fabulous!
Yes, we hope to screen in Ireland very soon. I've had a couple. Frank was on from Boyne Valley International Film Festival, and they kindly actually offered, because Alex was going to come over for a little while to do a little bit of writing over here, and they were very, very kindly offered some office space. But anyway, things like festivals and BAFTAs have gotten in the way, so he's not going to be.
Yeah, it's a weird, it's a funny one. I was actually meant, that's the thing. I was meant to be writing. I was writing a feature, not Olive. It was another feature. And I was meant to be kind of doing that February, March, but then I didn't really. Then we got nominated for the BAFTAs, and then all this other stuff started getting in the way. So, yeah, it's a whirlwind, you know, like you know.
And such an exciting whirlwind, and shows as well. Like, so in a film where at the very beginning, where you guys had to fought so hard, like, and literally walk the streets to get it funded. Like, now that's it. You really are, like, it is time to celebrate, which is amazing. Okay, so that's brilliant. So look, guys, thank you so much for chatting. You've taken enough of your time. I think there's so much celebrating to be done, and it was just, again, like such a really, really beautiful film. It's really, really well deserved.
Thank you, Gemma. Thank you, Gemma.